Hello, everybody, and welcome back. I'm your host, San Man,
And I'm your co-host, Holland.
and this is San's Corner, where we just kind of talk about whatever. And today's topic is going to be on the explosion in Lebanon. So, this happened very recently, yesterday, in fact. So, all of this is pretty much speculation. There are no official reports out yet. There's not an official death count. The initial report right now is over 50 dead and thousands injured. And to kind of put into context what happened, so in Lebanon, in Beirut, in the main port, there was a massive explosion, which started out, there was an initial explosion, and then fire and kind of micro explosions, and then it led into just this mega explosion that took out pretty much the whole area. I like looking at the footage of the aftermath footage from ground zero out. It looks like the initial kill radius, as in buildings did not survive, was about 6 blocks out, 6 city blocks out, minimum. And then even further from that, I mean, buildings sustained massive integral damage. So huge, huge explosion. And I just wanted to kind of speculate my own little theories, and I was kind of pissed off because I had heard about this and saw a couple videos, and then that was about it. Didn't really look for any news articles or any official statements from the White House. And I came up with my own conclusion that this could have been some kind of inside job or, kind of terrorist attack. And come to find out, the White House's statement from the Trump administration kind of fell along those same lines. So I was like, hey, got that on my own. But at the same time, I was like, you bastards beat me to it. But yeah, like from my experience, so we're both military. And in a lot of the things that I've seen kinetic strikes, I've seen IEDs of multiple magnitudes go off, and they can be devastating. Seeing this now, the report that we're getting from the Lebanese government is stating that this was an old warehouse that had a large amount of potassium nitrate in it that had been confiscated from a container ship a few years back, 6 years back to be precise, as they were putting it in their report. And those high explosives were not properly stored, or there was something wrong that happened, where fire or heat or whatever was present and it caused it to set it off. Now, here's my problems with that. So, first things first, the government never tells the truth up front, especially in those kind of countries. Like you look at the USSR with Chernobyl, and China with COVID. All these countries cover things up, especially initially, because they want to deal with it in-house and try to figure out what they're going to do about it. And if anything, just make it disappear. Like with Chernobyl and COVID, obviously, those things started affecting the rest of the world, so they couldn't cover it up. With this one, it's not really affecting anybody, so the cover-up probably wouldn't be too hard. But I feel like this was a kind of internal terrorist attack. And the reason I say it is two things. One, that location specifically has been known for weapons production, and other things of that nature, as well as the huge civil unrest with the Lebanese people and the elite controlling government. Right now, there's a lot of unrest. There's a lot of economic unrest. Obviously, for almost practically thousands of years, there's been tensions between Lebanon and Hamas and Israel. So you're always having that going on, attacking and retaliating. So it's a very, very unstable region. And and here's another thing too. The other bit of information that kind of led me to like, that's very interesting, was the previous prime minister for Lebanon was assassinated in a car bombing, a quite large car bombing actually as well. And this explosion happened not too far away, from what I've read, from that bombing location, as well as it should be 3 days from today. There is a court hearing in the Netherlands of the 4 men accused of assassinating the former prime minister. So the timing and everything on this is extremely coincidental, and it's like, that accidents like that don't happen that perfectly. And then moving into the actual footage from what we've seen, I've seen many different angles. The initial explosion itself, I haven't seen. Nobody was recording, when it first went off, because nobody expected that. But all the footage after the first initial explosion, it definitely appears to be like a weapons cache kind of explosion of fire. There's lots of kind of small arms caliber explosions going off. You can see little kind of micro explosions, larger ones here and there, and then all of a sudden there's just this massive explosion. And to kind of paint the picture, Cyprus is over 150 miles away from this port area, and the explosion was heard from there very clearly. So it was the only thing I can, as far like, in the shockwave was insane. The way it bubbled out, it almost looked like it came from underground, almost like an underground explosion. And the only place I've ever seen a shockwave so powerful that it condenses and displaces the water in the air the way it did was a volcanic eruption. Just a huge, insane amount of pressure being released at once. And so, putting that all together, I feel like this was some kind of terrorist attack that was either on a cache of some sort, or even possibly a missile silo, an ICBM silo, which would kind of have the payload necessary to create this kind of explosion. And when I say silo, ICBM, I'm not talking about nuclear, I'm talking about standard explosive payload, but still, it's an ICBM and it's a massive payload. And with it being underground, the way silos are, that would give it kind of like almost a shape charge effect, to where all that pressure just going straight up. It's very contained, very direct, and it would be able to create such a shockwave as it did. So I know you're kind of a little skeptical on my side of it. What do you make of it?
I mean, it's really hard to say what it was. I mean, I don't know much about it, but I definitely know that's not like a gas explosion in no way. I've never seen a gas, cause an explosion like that, at least.
Yeah.
Especially for the nitrate potassium that they're talking about, there's some crazy crap out like there, but I like you said,
And even then with potassium nitrate, if you ever watch lab studies and stuff, and you watch a flame reaction or an explosive reaction with potassium nitrate, obviously it explodes. That's why it's used for explosives manufacturing. But
on a scale like that, though,
outside, by itself, potassium nitrate by itself, while it is volatile, and especially in large quantities, it lacks the flashpoint explosion that like you get with C4 or Semtex and stuff like that. Those things have been modified and engineered specifically to have an extremely high flashpoint, to where basically what that means is the material is consumed at such a high, fast rate that there's just an instant release of energy. Whereas like black powder would be the opposite of that. It burns much slower. It's a much slower, gradual release of energy. And so with potassium nitrate, like I said, while it is still extremely volatile, when you compare it to other refined explosive materials, it's not that as reactive. And so, saying that this was a old warehouse full of potassium nitrate that exploded, it's like, well, if that's the case, A, why were there so many sub-explosions before the primary one? What else was there? And B, was the entire shipping container ship loaded down with potassium nitrate? Like, are we talking about, practically hundreds of thousands, if not possibly millions of tons of potassium nitrate just sitting in a single warehouse? It seems very improbable to me.
Yeah, I don't know. There could have been like a manufacturer facility that could, or believe that if an accident happened there, then a storage house blowing up. Even if it was a storage house, maybe a little believable if it was actually a storage house where they've always kept the product, while making ammunition. Maybe then you could kind of see.
It's like your raw resource stock.
Yeah. Then I could kind of see it, but like you said, like if you just got like 6 containers, just sitting there, that's been stored there for the last 6 years, it's kind of, it's hard to believe that it would just explode like that out of nowhere now.
Yeah. And now of all times, with everything that's going on over there, with how tensions are rising, how the government is failing its people, and with the trial for the attackers of the previous prime minister, it's like there's just so much going on. It's like, can't be coincidence. And of course, if it did happen to be an ICBM silo or weapons manufacturing facility, we'll never hear about that, because that would put them in a bad spot as far as international relations go. Also to clarify, which them saying this is just as good as Lebanon saying it was a storage warehouse. Israel also released a statement stating that they had nothing to do with the explosion, and offered their any type of aid or assistance, if needed, to the people and government of Lebanon. So everybody's kind of taking a pretty neutral stance and offering out help. The United States has offered help. The UK has offered out help. Germany was the only one that, oddly enough, they kind of offered help, but like it was more so like they were just like, sorry, you guys are dealing with this. And it sounded like they were more concerned about maybe their nationals being over there, German nationals being there, than anything else. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Just like, Germany, out of all the other countries that offered assistance and help, kind of was like, yeah, sorry you guys are dealing with that.
Yeah, that's definitely a shitty. Watching the video with the car, that was pretty intense. Like, oh wow.
Yeah, and so yeah, just to describe this, the video he's describing it's the most recent one that I found. It's some person driving on the causeway away from the harbor. It looks like it's across the way. I'm not sure exactly the topography there, but I don't know if it's an inlet or a sound or whatever, but the harbor's there's the harbor body of water and this bridge. So it's fairly far off. And when the big explosion happens, you see it happen, and then when the shock wave gets to them, it literally shatters their windows, and because the front windshield is made to not break apart, it stays together. It just destroyed the front windshield. It stayed in place, but it was completely destroyed. I mean, that is an insanely powerful shock wave.
Yeah, I would say they definitely wanted something to happen. And I mean, even if it was like an intentional, let's say they blew something up and this trial was supposed to happen in that same, like, maybe near the vicinity or something, there might have been a lot of officials and stuff that they wanted to get off the playing field too.
Well, no, the trial itself is in the Netherlands.
Oh,
so if anything, it'd be more of a political statement than a actual attack on the trial itself.
No. But you said it was the area where the last car bombing was, right?
Yeah, so where the previous prime minister had been assassinated, all the report says it was near that area. So I just thought that was kind of interesting too.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring this up to you guys and just kind of give my take on it. This isn't the normal kind of podcast that we usually have, so I'm starting. This will be our first episode for Sans Corner. So hope you guys enjoyed it, learned a little bit. Let us know what you think in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. Am I just a crazy conspiracist, or
my crazy conspiracy theory right now is, did you really beat the White House at the conclusion?
Well, I don't know. You see, that's kind of like a Schrodinger's box for me, because I didn't look at what time that report was made, when that response was made. I heard it was during one of his COVID press conferences. So I'm guessing that was either today or yesterday. If it was yesterday, he definitely beat me. If it was today, I have a chance of maybe beating him. Probably not. Point being, I came to the conclusion before I saw that report.
All I know is that I think you just want to feel special.
I mean, yeah, everybody wants to feel a little bit special.
We'll definitely
see, because in my branch, I don't get crowns. All right, you got crowns, so I have to find other ways to be special.
Just jealous. Listen, all I know is Big Boom was really bad.
The Big Boom was very bad. Actually, there was
you said
a friend of mine.
50 of them that are considered dead right now.
Yeah, so the initial report, the official report from Lebanon, stated the blast was heard 240 kilometers away. So a large blast in the Lebanese capital, Beirut, has killed at least 70 people and injured more than 4,000 others, the health minister says. So, and also for the amount, they're reporting that there was 2,750 tons of ammonium nitrate, which is a pretty decent size. It's a good amount. So I still just from my experience, and this is why I say this, because I'm not saying that that's not enough explosive material to create that kind of explosion. It's just from my experience in witnessing explosives and explosions and weapons and stuff in the theater of war. A surface explosion, which in a building warehouse, that's what that would be. It'd be above the surface. A surface explosion acts in a very specific way. A underground explosion, or a explosion below the horizon of the surface has a very different characteristic. And that characteristic is what I noticed in this explosion. Just the way the condensed vapor and the shock wave formed, it looked very much the same way if you just upscaled a shaped charge. So that's kind of my thing on that. But like I said, this is all purely speculation. Nobody really knows anything at this point. I'm sure the Pentagon and CIA know much more than they'll ever probably let us know. But as far as the general public goes and information that's available to the media, really everything's in speculation, and the only information out there right now is the reports from the officials of these countries.
Which isn't a whole lot right now.
No. And I take all of those kind of things with a grain of salt, because you can say whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's no different if something like this ever happened in the U.S. Let's say it was like a freak accident in an ammunition factory or something. They would find a way to cover it up and say it was probably the same.
Oh, yeah.
So I can definitely see if it was a cover up, like you said, if it was a ammunition factory. Not only is that gonna make relations tense, especially being in that area of where we're located as a country, but at the same time, to its people, it's already going through a rough state. It's always been going through a hard time. It would be a tipping scale to know that, hey, guess what? We just lost like all these people just because our government fucked up even more. So I could see where, they definitely said, hey, you know what? It was from a cargo that we had 6 years ago, guys. We might have forgotten about it. Poor maintenance on, storage. It just basically blew up. Kaboom. That was it. Sorry. And I mean, even if it was poor storage, let's say let's say 100% they are saying the truth. There's no telling what's in that area. For example, maybe that sound that we were hearing was from like other elements exploding as well. Let's say there was like, I don't know, gas lines, all kinds of shit in the way.
Or even just like even because it's a warehouse district, in a port area, so you might have other chemical compounds, from industry and stuff. So there's any number of variables that could add to that scenario.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, like if it's a storage house, there could be gasoline, diesel, other chemicals on top of it that would help make a homemade bomb even more happen. So it is.
Well, even potassium by itself, as a metallic element, it's extremely reactive to water and extremely violent. And that could have been something. Maybe there's potassium in one of the warehouses, and there was a water leak or something, or it was just humid, and it set it off, and that created a chain reaction. There's a million things that we don't know.
Like the potassium could have get one off, but what I was saying was like the potassium caused even more of a reaction with other things. So like I said, storage facility. They probably got vehicles or something. They probably have their own like gas or diesel supply somewhere. They probably have, like you said, other chemicals, and when it went off, other things went off with it, and then big enough boom. Big enough to dig into the ground, cause like let's say there was a gas pipe over here, boom, even more of a bigger explosion. What could have been a 2-block radius is now a 6-block radius. I can see where there's a lot in play, and it definitely makes it hard.
Yeah. The other thing too is just looking at the size of the explosion, and I mean, just the power of the shockwave itself, how much damage the shockwave created. 70 people, I feel like, is a very small number. This is a densely populated area. It's a port city area, and it looks like it's the middle of the day. It'd be business hours. Plenty of things going on. I do not see how. Maybe it's just the initial report. Maybe it's just the initial confirmed. But 70, I feel like, is an extremely low number for this type of disaster. And I want to add in to anybody either from Lebanon or with family there, or that has been affected by this event. My condolences and thoughts and prayers go out to you. This is an extremely tragic event, regardless of origin or cause. This is a horrible tragedy. And so, our thoughts and prayers are out with all of you. Anything in conclusion?
No, I mean, definitely was not in that podcast, because I was like, oh, that's some pretty serious shit there, boy.
Yeah.
You can't just can spawn this on me in 2.5 seconds.
Well, it's just something I wanted to cover real quick.
And I'm assuming this all happened today.
Yesterday.
Yes.
Tuesday.
No.
Or is today Tuesday?
Today is Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, it happened today.
Okay. I was like, oh. Then you were like, is today Tuesday? I was like, yeah, today's Tuesday.
So then I probably could have beat the president then to at least his press conference. I mean, he probably knew by this morning whenever this event occurred. But he didn't release it to the press until that COVID press conference. So if I can figure out what time that was, I can... I figured it out, or I came to that conclusion around... It would have been somewhere between 12 and 1 Eastern Standard Time. So if he released it after that, I win.
Oh God! I fucking win, not you.
Take that, Trump.
And then Trump pops in. No, you hold it. How would you feel if you
just wait? Just wait till I win the election.
He just pops in the Discord. Yeah, you just wait. I'm gonna have you shut down.
Right.
Get you shut down.
I'm gonna make your podcast is gonna end faster than it even started, and it hasn't even started yet, so that's pretty fast.
His new election slogan is gonna be in Discord. Stop the saying that.
Right. Thank you, everybody, for listening in to Sans Corner. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Let us know what you think in the comments, and we will see you next time. Oh my gosh. Crazy boy. You're a crazy boy.
I'm gonna laugh so hard.